Hi guys, welcome to yet another edition of the Overdrive Digital Show. As you can see, we've got a power-packed show lined up for you today. In a few moments from now, we'll be joined by Mr. Vikram Gulati of Toyota Kirloskar Motor India, who will be telling us about the brand's hybrid vision for India. Do key in any of the questions you might like answered on this topic in the comment section. Over to our first story for the day then. Ducati is known for making some of the finest sports bikes and super bikes on the planet, and my colleague Arif Shirwani got a chance to sample the sensational Panigale V2 in Delhi recently. Take a look.
What's red, has two wheels, goes insanely fast and is made in Italy? There's only one answer to that question, and that answer is Ducati. Today I've got my hands on the Panigale V2 and my excitement's already at 300 kilometers per hour. But we've got work to do, so let's get right to it. It looks absolutely smashing, there's no two ways about it. In fact, a lot has been said in comparison to its older sibling, the V4. So yes, while they have a lot in common, there are also subtle differences when you see them back to back. The V4 is a little more angular, it rakes forward a little more in terms of design. The V2 is a little more straighter in terms of its line, and the skin is not as taut and sharp. Despite that, it looks absolutely stunning. There is no way you can fault it with. In fact, what I'm really impressed with, and it's just not a Panigale V2 thing or a Panigale V4 thing, it just is a Ducati thing. The parts are machined so well. The finishing is absolutely incredible. For example, the handle clamp, the foot pegs, the levers, even the shoulder brace on which the rear foot peg is mounted, it's beautifully machined. The rear cowl where the tail lamp just comes in this inverted C shape, and the hollows in between the seat, even the air intake vent up ahead in the fairing, all of it is so beautifully done. You can just stand and look at this motorcycle for a really long time. Every time I've parked it and moved away, I keep turning back to look at it, keep trying to analyze the little bits of design work in the motorcycle and the body work. It's absolutely stunning and really incredible to look at. So we'll talk about the equipment and the features list on offer, and then see how it all comes together to make the Panigale V2 what it really is. So in terms of footwear, it's running the Pirelli Diablo Corso Rossa 2s, 120 section up front, 180 section at the rear, both cast alloy 17-inch rims. In terms of the braking hardware, you get Brembo M4.32 4-piston calipers mounted on twin 320mm discs. At the rear, you get a single 240mm disc with a 2-piston caliper. The suspension is not absolutely top draw equipment, but still really good and par for the cost. So you get Showa big piston forks, 43mm, fully adjustable, so you can adjust them for rebound as well as compression on top. And from the bottom, you can adjust the internal spring preload as well. Same with the rear, where you get a Sachs monoshock, which is also adjustable 3 ways, so you can adjust for compression, rebound, as well as the external spring damping. Now, information comes to the rider via 4.3-inch TFT display, and because of all the electronic wizardry, there is a lot of information that needs to be relayed, and the TFT does a wonderful job of it. It's clear, it's crisp, the tachos in the center and all the other information relayed around it, and it comes to the rider really legibly and clearly. In terms of electronics, you get almost the entire range of the inertial measurement unit-based systems. So you have 3 riding modes: Street, Sport and Race, and these come with preset defaults for traction control, wheelie control, engine braking as well as ABS. Now these modes are also further highly customizable. So you can go into the settings and you can change traction control between 8 levels, wheelie control from 4 levels, and engine braking from 3 levels depending on your riding style in each of the modes. Now Street gives you slightly softer throttle response, while Race gives you sharper, more dynamic throttle response. So overall, there's lots of electronics to complement the engine, the suspension as well as the braking systems, and in terms of customization to your riding preference, the sky's the limit. In terms of construction, the chassis is aluminum monocoque, which not only helps in taut handling but also keeps the waistline narrow so you can tuck the bike really well between the legs. Nestled underneath that chassis is the traditional Ducati 90-degree L-twin engine, and that is where this Panigale V2 departs completely from its older sibling, the Panigale V4, and comes closer to its roots, where it's the successor to the 959 Panigale that went before it. Now this engine's making 167 PS of peak power at 10,750 RPM and 104 Newton meters of torque at 9,000 RPM. While it can be ridden on the street, I would advise strictly against it. Yes, you can ride it on the road, but you need to have a very well-developed set of riding muscles, your neck muscles, back muscles, forearms, wrists. They all need to be really strong because it's focus, it's riding positions, committed, it's extreme, it's designed to go fast on a track. So you can see the foot pegs are rear set, the handlebars are really low, and the only way to be really comfortable is to be down on the tank. So it's a committed riding position made for fast riding. In heavy traffic, at city speeds, you can feel your body tensing up, you can feel the weight on your wrists, you can feel the neck muscles beginning to give way. So it's not a very pleasant experience. In terms of performance, the bike is not very happy at city speeds. However, you show it a road like this or a racetrack, it's where it really comes into its own. Above 3000 RPM, there's great mid-range, it really pulls. So if you see the torque curve at around 3500 RPM, you can tell that's begun to cross the 80, 85, 88 Newton meters mark. And then it peaks at 104 Newton meters at 9,000 RPM. And between the mid-range to the top end, there's great performance on offer. In fact, the moment you hit 9,000 RPM, it just goes. I already told you that the suspension's fully adjustable, so the Showa big piston forks up front as well as the Sachs monoshock at the rear are completely adjustable. But how does that come together to complement the engine and the tires and the braking system in terms of how it handles on the road? So for the bike to perform ideally on a road like this or on a track, the settings have to be appropriate, otherwise it's going to feel a little wallowy. So which is what happened with me initially, where the setting was not completely right, the rear is too soft. So while it's coming into turns pretty fast and braking hard just before it, so before you enter a corner and even midway through the corner, the rear wheel would kind of wallow and make for a little bit of a hairy moment. But luckily there's cornering ABS and a lot of safety net to keep you safe. However, if you want to go really fast around turns, you have to tighten things up a little bit. Once you get the suspension settings right, this motorcycle is an absolute blast to ride. In fact, the faster you go, the better it gets. So you can hurtle down a straight, come on the brake slate, and the Brembo M4.32s work really well. So you can modulate the brake pressure right till you tip the motorcycle over into the turn, and it stays stable. There's no wiggle in the tail. And once you give it the beans on the exit, it'll even give you a little bit of a wheel lift if your wheelie control is set to just the right degree. It comes together so fantastically well with that monstrous bark of the L-twin combined with this really nice suspension and brake package. This middleweight sports bike really shines through the harder you push it. So all in all, it comes down to the buying proposition. So what are you really getting? In terms of competition in the middleweight sports bike category, there is none. The Kawasaki ZX6R does not exist right now. Same with the Daytona. If you want a middleweight sports bike, this is the only option. As that option, it comes across as a very well-rounded package, great engine, great handling. It's a very sorted motorcycle and it's pretty much all the bike you need if you're a performance-oriented rider. But in terms of price, it's 19.4 lakhs on-road Delhi. What that means is, while it has no direct competition in the segment that it's in, but in terms of price, it does have some competition and some marquee names in fact. For example, for 16.67 lakh rupees on-road Delhi, you can get the Kawasaki Ninja ZX10R, which is a full-blown liter-class superbike. For around 18.22 lakh rupees on-road Delhi, you can get the Suzuki Hayabusa, which is an absolute legend. And for around 19 odd lakh rupees, you can get the Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS, which is also an absolute hoot to ride from whatever reviews that I've seen. So the moot question then remains, would you be willing to pay so much of a premium for the Ducati brand?
Well, I hope you enjoyed that story. Can we get Bert and Rohit on the show, please?
Hello, Sohini.
Guys,
Hi,
good evening.
Hello,
good
Bert.
evening.
Good evening.
Sorry. Good evening. So the Areeb's had a lot of fun, I see.
Absolutely.
I can see Rohit having a frown on his face. Because he
I
didn't get to
mean,
ride.
but look outside the window. The weather's so good right now. It's the perfect weather to go out riding, and that red hot Italian would have been the perfect motorcycle to
Yeah.
just enjoy a good weekend
Let
ride.
our wife hear all of this, and she'll be already planning the next financial
That's
meltdown.
already a problem. Yes. Every
Very
time
well.
I
Arif
every
got
time
a
I review a
chance.
motorcycle, the first thing I hear from her, the first feedback is, "We are not buying this. You test it and you send it back."
Arif got a chance to ride the Ducati Panigale V2 and also drive the Isuzu, but that story is
Yes, I
also out
know.
on YouTube, and
This is why
I'm sure
my
you
face
were
is
unhappy.
frowning.
All right,
Anyway,
guys, in a couple of minutes from now, we'll have Mr. Vikram Gulati from Toyota join us. So remember, you can key in any of the questions you have regarding the hybrid tech. We'll take a couple of your questions. We have one from Vipin. He wants to know, he hears that Creta SX petrol and diesel model have been discontinued. Is it true?
not at all. Not at all. Why would Hyundai discontinue their one of their cash cows? I'm not sure at this point in time, but there is no news about anything, any variant also for that matter, being discontinued in the Hyundai fleet.
All right. Okay, Mayur is just stating his opinion. Okay, CMC, since he's spamming us, what about Taigun launch date? He's eagerly waiting.
Well, Tiger will come up very shortly. I think it should be just about a month to a month and a half away, not very far away for that matter. What we do know is that we will be driving the Tiger very, very soon, early part of August. So, yes, look forward to the launch happening very shortly. But I hope the biggest hope that we have is that Volkswagen prices it right, unlike Skoda, which has been coming under a lot of flack. In fact, someone I know recently called me up, was very keen on buying the Kushaq, and of course ended up at Skoda's dealership and came away very disappointed, both because of the pricing and because there wasn't much he felt in terms of value for that price. He was looking to buy the top end and came away quite disappointed. He's already a Skoda owner, owns Kodiaq, if I'm not mistaken, and owns a Kodiaq and an Octavia, amongst other cars as well. But wanted to get the Kushaq as well for a daily use kind of thing, and of course he hasn't any longer. So let's fingers crossed. Most important aspect from Volkswagen side is to get that pricing absolutely right.
All right, guys, we'll come back to your questions because we have a very exciting video to play for you as well. Rohit has actually been pretty busy spotting yet another much awaited SUV from Mahindra. The XUV700 will be replacing the XUV500 in the country. It will get class-leading petrol and diesel engine options and will boast of headlining features and safety tech. So let's just take a look at that video.
The Mahindra XUV700 has been coming for a long time now, and as with most Mahindra cars, there is an endless supply of photos and videos of the test mules. So here are some more. The XUV700 has some interesting lighting elements, but we'll come to that in a bit. Reports suggest that the XUV700 will have two engine options: a 2.2-litre diesel, which is an uprated version of the familiar M-Hawk oiler, and uprated to 185 PS. Joining it will be the XUV700 petrol, which uses the 2-litre 4-cylinder M-Stallion turbo petrol direct injection motor, which is capable of churning out 200 PS, and that outclasses its rivals like the MG Hector Plus and the recently launched Hyundai Alcazar. We hear that both the engines will be available with 6-speed manual or 6-speed ISIN automatic transmission options. The XUV700 test mules seen here are likely to be undergoing tests on the headlining ADAS systems like the radar-guided cruise control, lane departure warning, forward collision warning, and automatic emergency braking, to name a few. The cabin will feature at least 6 airbags, and electronic stability control is likely to be offered as standard, and the top trims will get various drive modes too. The XUV700 will also spawn all-wheel drive variants as expected and will feature various terrain modes as well. As you're already aware, the XUV700 will build upon the design theme established by the outgoing XUV500, and it will be primarily seen in the hunched window line, broad tail lights and the C-shaped detailing for the headlights. All lighting elements, including the fog lamps, will feature LED technology, and the headlamps will also have the adaptive long-range functionality or auto high beam assist, which means that above 80 km an hour, the lamps will automatically increase the throw of the lights for better illumination to match highway speeds, provided the radar doesn't detect vehicles in front of it. Mahindra is calling them booster headlamps. The XUV700 will also feature dynamic turn blinkers pointing in the intended direction. Other subtle design features include flush door handles which pop out on unlocking, a shark fin antenna and a roof-mounted spoiler with a high stop lamp. The tailgate features an exposed camera, another camera sits in the grille below the Mahindra emblem, and the wing mirrors get their own cameras too for a 360-degree camera setup. The XUV700 rides on 18-inch wheels shod with 235 section tires, and the car will also have a longer wheelbase than the XUV500. It will be wider and longer too. We hear that the XUV700 will be revealed later this month, and bookings are likely to open on the 15th of August 2021, with Mahindra aiming to celebrate the Indian Independence Day with another world-class product made in India. Well, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to share it and do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already.
Rohit?
So all the
We always
confusion
have
is
a
out there.
comment.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of confusion about the launch date. Also, there's been lots of queries, and
Yes.
just to clarify, also, I've just got it on authority from Rajesh Jujulkar himself. And the thing is that the launch will be in the calendar year 2021, which means this year, just a few months away, or rather financial year 2022, which means till the March of next year, the following year. But essentially, it will come out. It is very very close. The launch of the XUV700.
All right. Rohit, there was some very interesting question for you. Lazy Wanderer was saying that I wonder whether you wear a cop's uniform and flag these test vehicles down. How is it that you're getting so many spy shots?
No. Lazy Wanderer, why don't you just call yourself Lazy Wanderer and just keep wondering this on how I'm doing this? Sorry for that lame joke, but yeah, let's not get into those details. The press never reveals its sources. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah, we have the information out for you, and like Bert just confirmed, the XUV700 will be launched this year. I'm very sure they'll do something around the 15th of August. It's a little more than a month away. Last year, on the 15th of August, Bert had a chance to drive the new Thar, and that created quite a bit of stir. In fact, that review also got quite a few comments and questions, and it ended up creating quite a bit of stir. And Mahindra is definitely hoping that they do the same thing with the XUV700. In fact, if the comments on the internet are anything to go by, everyone's very eagerly waiting for this product, and it will go straight up against the Safari, the new Safari, and the Hyundai Alcazar, and of course the MG Hector Plus as well. Now, the pricing is something that we really don't know. We've already got a lot of comments and concerns about the pricing of the Octavia, the D-Max, the Kushaq. So, nothing's really going as per expectations for the entire market. So I hope Mahindra at least delivers on the expectations of the market and prices that XUV700 really well. But it will certainly not be in the same zone as the XUV500. It will be priced higher because it does promise a lot of tech.
Hello.
Right.
All
Back
right,
to you, producer.
Rohit, I do believe we have Mr. Vikram Gulati waiting for us on the digital show. So over to you and to the questions. Guys, please do send in any questions that you have for Toyota as well.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Gulati-san. I hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. And I hope the same for you and all the people who've tuned in.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind wishes. Everyone at Overdrive is doing well as well, and I hope all of our viewers are doing well as well. In fact, Gulati-san, we spoke last year. It was during the lockdown again, and we are back, and we are unfortunately still speaking to each other only, digitally and through these screens. So it's still some time away that we actually meet in person, but. I think the time is still right to post quite a few queries for you. Ever since we talked about Toyota coming on board on the Overdrive Digital Show and talking about the hybrid tech, a lot of queries have come through. So what I'm going to begin with is the most common query that everyone has. Most of the industry right now is talking about skipping the hybrid bandwagon altogether. They are saying that the most common answer that we're getting is why spend that extra money doing battery as well as an internal combustion engine? Why not just do the internal combustion engines for now and directly jump onto the EV bandwagon, because that is what the horizon looks like for us. So what are your thoughts on this? The hybrid is, of course, the midway point, but what are your arguments for this particular scenario right now?
Right. First of all, the reason that everybody is trying to do electrification, we all know this, it's to reduce fossil fuel consumption and to reduce carbon footprints as well as pollution. So that's what we're all trying to achieve. Now, the second point we must remember is when you talk about electrification and electrified vehicles, you're really talking about a family of technologies. What's common amongst them is that they all have one electric powertrain. So hybrid, because it kind of seeks to be independent of charging infrastructure, has onboard charging by way of a full-fledged petrol powertrain, gasoline powertrain. The battery electric vehicles get rid of that and are fully electric. And if you go to PHEVs, you have a higher range. And the hydrogen vehicle, you replace the gasoline powertrain with a hydrogen tank and a fuel cell stack. Now, if you look at the projections going forward, EV has taken good traction in the past 1 year despite the pandemic. The global penetration is around 3%. If you look at any forecast, whether it is IEA or whether it is the forecast by BNEF, the latest forecast, or BCG, one thing is clear, that the drive towards electrification, which includes all technologies, is basically going to be driven by the regulatory forces as well as the incentives, etc., that our governments are kind of giving, because the technologies continue to be much costlier and they still do have challenges going forward. Now, if you look at the near-term projections globally, what you see is that electrics, are going to pick up, but the hybrids are also picking up at the same times, almost at the same ratio. This year, it's going to be 4% global share for hybrids from a powertrain point of view. Same for EVs. Now, as of course time passes on, the battery prices comes down, technology learning curves kick in, costs come down, infrastructure gets created. EVs will definitely pick up, but hybrids remain an option going forward. Then the other point we must remember is that, for instance, in India, if you need to go in the direction of electrification with Make in India, you need to have the ability to invest for EV powertrain parts in the country. And right now, the problem is a vicious circle where, primarily because of limited offtake of BEVs, primarily in the PV segment, which I'm talking about. So lack of demand means lack of investment viability. If you follow the route of all electrified technologies, the aggregation of demand at the parts level is much better. And globally, it's seen that this aids and helps in investment viability and, in fact, sharpens the offtake curve for all electrified technologies. So it's not really about EV versus hybrid in my view. It's about how fast you can displace ICE with an electrified vehicle, which is much better in terms of emissions and fossil fuel consumption.
Right. But when we talk about these numbers, one thing also comes to mind that hybrid, the penetration of hybrid vehicles, or even the portfolio. When you look at hybrid vehicles globally, there are quite a few models on offer, and we are talking about everything from small hatchbacks going up all the way to luxury cars. But when we look at the Indian scenario or the Indian market, you have a few micro hybrid or mild hybrid vehicles, but otherwise, a proper hybrid, the least that you would have to spend for would be a Toyota Camry at the moment. So, that is another set of questions, or most common questions that we are getting on this topic is when will the hybrid technology come down to a price point where it becomes affordable for everyone? When you say that the numbers are increasing for hybrids globally, and you're talking about the 4% global penetration for hybrids, India, it again comes back to that same argument of why do battery and an ICE together when the prices are that high? Will you be able to bring it down to a level that can actually become that affordable?
Yeah. Thanks for that question. I think that is, you're right. It's something that's asked very frequently. First of all, I'd like to clarify that when I'm talking about hybrids, I'm really talking about the strong hybrids, the proper hybrids, not the mild ones. That's a totally different technology. Now, in India, we were the first OEM to bring in a strong hybrid, and we started assembly manufacturing in the country with Camry. As with any new technology that's costlier, we did our initial market entry at a pretty high segment. That's usually the way it's done. And that was basically to gauge the technology acceptability amongst consumers, as well as to test the technology in Indian driving conditions. So that's why we entered Indian market with the Camry. And our experience has been that the acceptance was really good. The potential is really very good going forward. In fact, in that small segment, we initially had Camry petrol only, and our share was around 30-40% of that particular small segment. And within a few months, we didn't have any orders for Camry petrol, all orders for hybrids, and our market share, segment share, increased to more than 60%. So clearly establishing the acceptability of the product. And this was, of course, prior to the GST coming in, where at a time point when there was a good incentive from a taxation point of view to hybrids also. Post that, of course, there have been some changes to the taxation, which has made the technology much more expensive. And that's one of the reasons why the entry of other models, not only by Toyota, but other OEMs, has also kind of been pushed back a bit. Going forward, we are confident about the acceptability and the success of this technology in the country. As we work towards bringing in this technology, we are very aware and working hard to try and make sure that we do so by trying to do maximum localization. It not only helps build the local ecosystem, but it's also helps bring down the costs, which therefore improves the affordability and the offtake of the vehicle. Going forward, we are bullish on this technology from the lessons we've seen globally and the developments that are happening around. Uh, so that's what I would like to kind of submit.
Okay. But Gulati-san, especially when we talk about hybrids, Toyota is certainly in the forefront, not just in the country, but even if you were to look at the global portfolio that Toyota has, again, there is a strong hybrid portfolio that you have for various vehicle sizes. So what stops Toyota from bringing in any of the smaller vehicles to the Indian market, which would also have a hybrid powertrain? Why do you still have the starting point at a Camry? You also have briefly had the Prius for a couple of generations, but why can't it go any lower than that, especially when you do have that portfolio at your disposal globally? Of course, I know there are challenges involved, but would you like to maybe shed some light on those challenges, on why can't we get those Toyota hybrids to the Indian market, the affordable ones?
We are working towards it, and we will be, of course, trying to meet the consumer expectations in terms of the vehicles and technologies that they demand going forward. So it's only a matter of, I guess, time, and we would be working, trying to get more vehicles, more products, which meet the expectations of the consumers, both from a technology point of view as well as performance and from a price point of view. Uh, like I said, even if you look at the domestic passenger vehicle uh, market from a electrification perspective, uh, currently, last year around 4 to 5 thousand electric vehicles were sold. The projections from BNEF going forward are that by 2025 the market would be around 55,000 units for BEVs uh, per year, new vehicle sales, translating to roughly just shade under 1% of the market share. 2030, it's expected to be around 8%. What I'm getting at is it's a developing market for electrified vehicles because the challenges of introducing newer technologies are much more stiffer in the Indian market as compared to other markets globally. That's primarily because of the uniqueness of the Indian market, both in terms of the demographics, the consumer sensitivity to price as well as value proposition, the level of development of the local ecosystem, including the infrastructure for charging, etc. So this applies equally to all electrified technologies. We believe going forward traction, it's a time that we are likely to find traction going forward, and with that, hopefully, we would be able to bring newer and more models, which we can explore the possibilities.
Right. Okay. So we'll take the first question from one of our viewers. It talks about the cross-branding strategy between Suzuki and Toyota. Now, both of you are working together on quite a few vehicles. We've seen the synergies already with cars like the Glanza and the Urban Cruiser. Now, does this, when you say that you're working towards making hybrid technology more affordable, does this relation between you and Suzuki also come into play? Are you looking at co-developing something on this front?
Look, the alliance is both about cooperating and competing. So we continue to compete while we cooperate. It's also about trying to bring synergies in terms of the strengths of both the companies that is available. So, for instance, from a Toyota point of view, it's really about technology. We've been in the space of electrification for over 3 to 4 decades. In fact, if you look at the entire portfolio of electrified vehicles, which primarily in our case is strong hybrids, we're the largest seller of electrified vehicles till date, with having sold more than 17 million electrified vehicles, which has given us tremendous experience and learning on the various aspects of electrified vehicles and the components, which are common across all technologies. Whereas Suzuki has world level class, top level competencies when it comes to scale of operations and achieving that at a very aggressive and very competitive price point. So these two synergies can definitely work together. Going forward, one of the aspect is to also work in alignment, trying to bring in electrification. And what we aspire to do is to work towards mass electrification, because 5, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 electrified vehicles displacing equivalent number of ICE is not really going to do it for the country. So our aspiration, of course, is to try and see if we can work together for mass electrification, with the key objective being with making in India whatever we do, not only for the Indian market but also for outside.
Right. In fact, I'm going to take one question from Mr. Shubham Ghosh. Producer, let's just first take the question from Shubham Ghosh Hazra. Since you mentioned emissions right now, since you said that just a few electrified vehicles is really not going to help offset, the carbon footprint. This is more on the technical lines, where he asks that the hybrid uses a partial battery system, of course, and after a little bit of pull, the electric motor, it's essentially the engine that takes over and not the electric motor anymore. So how much does, what kind of emissions drop can we really expect from hybrids? So I'm going to rephrase that a little bit. When we talk about, say, the current BS6 engines, which are, I mean, the government is really pushing all car makers to make their internal combustion engines as clean as possible, and the BS6 engines have dropped the emission levels quite a bit. But vis-a-vis those engines, a hybrid, for example, the Camry that we just spoke about, a Camry petrol versus the Camry hybrid, what is the emissions drop like? What is the gain like? Let's put it that way.
Okay, some time back, there was a, a global event organized by ICAT, which is a Government of India testing agency, and they had invited OEMs to submit electrified technologies along with comparable ICE. The objective was to see the improvements in terms of emissions, fossil fuel consumption, and their general performance, both in the lab as well as on the road. They published their report, and I'm just citing these figures from this report. So, as far as a strong hybrid is concerned, as per their tests, this strong hybrid is capable of running 40% of the distance and 60% of the time in electrified mode with the engine shut off, with using a battery that is, probably 1/10 of what you need in a BEV. Now, what that does is that it leads to tremendous amount of efficiency and reduction in emissions. The fossil fuel reduction that was measured by the testing agency was in the range of 35 to 50%, depending upon size of the vehicle. And mind you, this fuel efficiency gain only improved on the road conditions, because ICE tends to lose out efficiency much more, and that's where the hybrid gains. In terms of emissions, from a carbon emission point of view, similar levels of savings, because carbon emission and fossil fuel saving is primarily the two sides of the same coin. As far as the regulated emissions are concerned, PM 2.5, etc., the strong hybrid level of emissions is almost 1/10 of that of a comparable BS6 vehicle. And mind you, we had given a vehicle which was of an earlier vintage. So that vehicle was actually using a BS4 fuel. So even with a BS4 fuel at that time, this vehicle was giving emissions, regulated emissions, PM 2.5, etc., which are almost 1/10 of the emission from a comparable ICE. So I hope that answers the question.
Right, it does. In fact, Gulati-san, I'm going to ask you, we are going to take one more question from Apur Chetty. So when we talk about mass electrification, globally, what is Toyota betting their future on? Is it fuel cells? Is it hybrids? Or is it pure EVs? Because we've seen all these technologies, of course. I'm sure each is one step towards the mass electrification process, but we would like to hear it from you. What is Toyota betting big on of all these between all these technologies?
We bet big on serving our customers to their satisfaction. So customer acceptance for us is going to be the primary driver. We have all these technologies, whether it's the hybrid or a BEV or the top end, which is the hydrogen vehicle. We believe going forward, even as far as 240 onwards, the various technologies are going to coexist globally. That's basically because the consumer requirements are very diverse, and consumer will pick the technology which meets his needs at a most optimum level. Having said that, the other point we would like to also emphasize is no two countries are same, because each country will have a very different set of local dynamics in terms of its own energy mix, resources available to it, and its own set of national priorities, unique priorities, which would be over and above, let's say, the general priorities of fossil fuel reduction and carbon emission or pollution reduction. For instance, in case of India, it's also about manufacturing. It's also about trying to get parallel benefits from other segments of the economy, and hence such economies will have also other options evolving. And this is evident from the recent developments around ethanol blending, and a lot of excitement around flexi fuel vehicles, because in a way that also helps to move away from fossil fuels and also helps to reduce carbon emissions. So we have all the technologies. We would be working towards providing the technology that best meets the requirements of the consumer and the energy mix in each different countries, in each of the countries, which is going to be unique.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Someone's just asked, what about a hybrid Fortuner? I'm going to build a little bit more on that. Just the way you said, no two countries are same. Of course, India has its own requirements. The market has its own requirements. Our requirement from an SUV is probably different from, say, what an Australia would have or what the United States would have. Maybe we don't take our SUVs out in the wild as often. Maybe we don't take them road tripping as frequently as maybe some of the other countries do, probably because the distances may not be that long. But you know the country best. You know the scenario best. You know what people do with our SUVs here. So in that scheme of things, how would a hybrid Fortuner or a hybrid Innova or any hybrid SUV work in our scheme of things? Because primarily what I believe is, yes, there are quite a few people who will do justice to these vehicles, who will do with SUVs what they're meant to do. But most others will probably just buy it because it casts a particular image, or these SUVs are the in thing right now. They prefer it to hatchbacks or sedans across different price points. So in your opinion, would a hybrid SUV make sense? If yes, in what kind of a price category or in what kind of a size category would a hybrid SUV make sense?
Okay, let me answer it slightly differently, deviating from a specific product point of view. Again, it's really around consumer acceptance, which is determined by a number of factors, which are extraneous determinants. For instance, the local regulations and the local taxation structure, etc., which have a huge bearing on the kind of products that you design and the kind of products that you roll out, because that will shape the acceptance of the consumer immensely. So going forward on a generic basis, if we want to look at what technologies are really going to be having advantage in terms of usage and size, I think that's where the question is. If you do a matrix of size of the vehicle and the distance it travels or the number of people it is capable of carrying, then smaller cars traveling shorter distances would naturally require smaller batteries and can be charged can have lower range anxiety issues, and hence as battery prices continue to fall, that particular segment can become something of a EV segment, if I may use that term, more amenable to EVs. However, when you look at larger vehicles with higher payloads, with greater weight, traveling longer distances, requiring very different usage patterns, there the battery volume or the amount of battery that you need comes into play, along with the range anxiety, etc., which is going to persist, whatever we say. There you would have other technologies like hybrids and plugins also really coming out trumps in terms of an absolute comparison. And when you go to much larger vehicles, something like trucks that do intercity travel or buses, there in near future we see that hydrogen is really going to become very competitive, perhaps 8 to 10 years or even less going down the road. So it's really going to be a bouquet of technologies. In India, for instance, this blending, ethanol blending is really taking off, and we already have an aspiration of 20% ethanol blending by 2025. What it means is you straight away reduce 25% of your petrol or diesel requirements. That is, a huge volume. It would be, probably a factor of 100 times over than electrification during this time frame. Even that is going to be something of a determinant in our market, as is going to be the gaseous fuels, because huge amount of investments have been made by the country in infrastructure related to CNG, and probably we're now also listening and hearing about LNG coming in. So I think it's going to be a much more varied bouquet of technologies going ahead, and basically the best fit would determine consumer acceptance.
Okay. I'm going to combine a couple of questions here. We have one from Mr. Mayur Shah and another from Dr. Suryavanshi. These are to do with batteries. So is Toyota working on interchangeable batteries for cars? And also, when we talk about hybrids, what is the fate of the batteries which are used in this particular technology? And does that at the, we are not talking about tailpipe, but the overall emissions, does that again cause larger impacts on the environment?
Okay, I mean, very important question. The batteries we use in hybrids are both the lithium ion as well as the nickel metal hydride. We currently give a very long. These batteries usually last out the life of the vehicle. That's around, usually around 8 to 15 years. They are designed in a very different way in terms of how they operate, because these batteries would be discharging in a nanosecond time period. So you won't have issues of depth of deep discharging, and their level of range of operation would be at a particular level, which gives them longevity. But having said that, for all electrified vehicles, the two things are going to be very critical. One is the manufacturing of batteries itself, which, if you factor it in, makes electric vehicles today less environment friendly even as compared to ICE, because the manufacturing process of batteries is very energy intensive, and there are environmental issues around it in that value chain. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is when you have vehicles reaching the end of life, what do you do with these batteries? If they're not really managed in a proper way, there would be another challenge. However, I think going forward, how we look at it is we have an environment global vision around 6 challenges, one of which is working towards a circular economy. So, and the other one is around life cycle zero carbon emission from what we do. So not only are we taking responsibility as a corporate on the carbon emission of our products, of our manufacturing, but of the entire value chain. So what it means is working towards use of optimal materials, alternate materials, which kind of bring down the intensity of the impact on the environment and energy, and also working towards putting these batteries to good use when they come to their end of utility for the automotive space. So for electrics, for instance, you would need a battery change around 6 to 7 years, depending upon how much you've driven and how you've driven. These batteries still are, some of these batteries in the cells therein still are good, are possibly good for reuse in stationary applications. There is potential, and there are people working towards putting that to use. And there is also an ecosystem which is coming up now towards recycling of the materials from these batteries. We, like I said, are committed to the goal of circular economy and minimizing the carbon impact to near zero for the life cycle of our products. And hence, as a part of that, not only globally, but in India, we, as a part of the Toyota Suzuki Alliance, we are coming up. We have already starting to put up end-of-life vehicle facility for recycling of vehicles, and also end-of-life facility for lithium-ion batteries, advanced batteries, so that we can recycle them and reharness the materials from them.
Okay, Gulati-san, we'll take one final question, and it's come from Sai Siva, who asks us, what will be Toyota's hybrid target market? I think he's asking about the target segment that you would ideally want to be in India. And because hybrids have been out of reach for the Aam Aadmi, the same question that we began with. So let's put it this way, that if you wanted to have presence in multiple segments, which you already have, but from a hybrid perspective, what is that ideal segment that Toyota India would like to participate in or like to have presence in?
Like I said, our aspiration is to kind of contribute towards mass electrification. And in order to do that, you really need to be in mass segments with the electrified technology. So I guess that answers that question in that way. It is not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging, but we are working towards it. and one key element, like I said, is working towards investing to try and create the local ecosystem. We are trying to find ways to do that. After all, investment viability is also something that we have to deal with. But our aspiration and our goal is basically to look at segments which are of much more mass appeal than the initial segments where we entered, because those were market testing kind of segments.
Right. In fact, Mr. Gulati, I think hybrid itself was challenging enough, but Toyota did show us the way. They did bring in the Prius, they did bring in the Camry, and we are glad that you are continuing to make sure that this endeavor of yours to bring in electrified vehicles is up and running. And we wish you all the very best to bring in those mass electrified vehicles, because I'm sure the entire market is waiting for it. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for all the insightful answers and to take these live questions after your work hours. So it was really a pleasure having you on the Overdrive show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. And it's been a real privilege and a pleasure for me. Really very invigorating in terms of getting those questions. And I hope I've done justice to them. But thank you for having me. And I'd like to wish everybody all the very best and stay safe.
Thank you so much. Good night. Well, so there you had it. I hope all your queries have been answered. If you still have any further queries about hybridization, about electrification, and Toyota in particular, just let us know. Drop them in the comments on this particular video, or you can simply reach out to us on social media using the hashtag AskOD, and we'll try to get you those answers as soon as possible. Well, with that, back to you, Sohini, back to you, Bert. Let's continue with the news again. I hope you guys are still around. Oh, there you are.
I think before we head into news, let's take a couple of more questions. Bert, you were saying something? You're on mute.
Sorry, yeah. So very interesting conversation. Actually, quite a few things that I learned about. In fact, one of them, of course, in his last comments also about the end of life for hybrid batteries. Very interesting to know what kind of life cycle they have, and because not all EVs do the same. A lot of EV manufacturers now cite about 10 years for their batteries before they have to be replaced. Also because of battery degradation, which happens far more rapidly than EV. And I think it's interesting to know that with hybrids, it also goes on for a much longer period of time. So there are definitely benefits, I think, merits to this as well. But great of him, fantastic, Mr. Gulati, to actually have clarified a lot of these thoughts, or rather at least cleared there, and a lot of the confusion that exists around hybrids. So I think big thank you to Toyota also to helping us get Mr. Gulati on the digital show and providing some of these answers to us.
All right, we'll carry on with our Q&A session. Mayur wanted to know why Mahindra and Tata outsourcing their automatic gearboxes. Don't they have expertise to engineer one by themselves, or is there some other issue?
Well, Mayur, most manufacturers who are there, a lot of gearbox technologies come from overseas because there's a central manufacturer, whether it's Aisin or whether it's Marelli, or there are various other vendors for this as well. And that's how they come from overseas. In some cases, it makes more sense to import those parts into India rather than have to manufacture them over here alone. So that's the only reason why it happens in that way. It's how India manufactures certain cars over here and then exports them to other markets elsewhere. Similar reasons why certain components come from overseas, not entirely made in India.
Shantanu wants to know why aren't companies coming up with plug-in hybrids? The segment is relatively untouched.
Well, that's also because, like Mr. Gulati said, at this point in time, the price point is still a fairly high one for plug-in hybrids also. And there are efforts by some manufacturers to get plug-in hybrids into the market. But this is something that unless and until prices become it's a justifiable cost, manufacturers are not willing to invest in that. Also, the volumes that are involved in this, how high will they be, is another big question mark. But like Mr. Gulati said, that in the mass market segments is where a lot of interest is now coming up towards hybridization because of both the emission requirements, fuel efficiency requirements, and the general benefits of a hybrid powertrain as well. So yes, I think a lot more movement will come into the smaller small car, compact car segments. But plug-in hybrids may not entirely be the solution there.
Rohit, here's a question for you. Lazy Wanderer says there were rumors last week about the Himalayan 650 being closer to reveal. Do you have any details about this, launch timeline and engine specs?
No, I actually don't have any details about this because, as I've said multiple times on this show, I have heard, mixed responses from various people in the know about this particular project. Some telling us that the 650 parallel twin engine that they have is not ideal for the Himalayans application. It's just not able to give them the kind of throttle response that they want to make a vehicle of this sort. Some people are saying that the chassis and engine combination is just not working. Some people are saying that they are working like marriage made in heaven. So I'm just hearing too many responses. I even heard from someone very close to Royal Enfield that the project was actually shelved. So I'm really not in the know about this. We'll have to wait and watch till we actually see a prototype or till we actually see the vehicle on the road. I think there's nothing that I can really say. But as far as what I can see from that engine that we've ridden in the Interceptor, in the Continental GT, I think the engine has a lot of promise. I think they will be able to work around something. And if they create that, Himalayan 650, I think it's probably just what the doctor ordered, because there's literally nothing that could give you that kind of performance and that kind of price that Royal Enfield should be able to achieve. So yeah, let's hope, fingers crossed.
Okay, here's an interesting question from Call Sign Crusader 9. He says that the Velar has a 2-liter diesel engine that makes 204 horsepower, and the Toyota uses a 2.8 liter, which makes the same. What are the changes that help premium brands make more power and torque?
Well, it's a very simple thing. A lot of it has to deal with turbocharging and, of course, using newer materials, better thermodynamic efficiencies, and how contemporary that engine is. In a lot of manufacturers' cases, certain engines go on for decades, are utilized for years and years and years with mild modifications that kind of give you the desired results, depending on what various requirements are in that particular market. Now, in this case, also the 2.8 liter engine from Toyota, it's a fairly old engine also, and while it makes a reasonable amount of power, there was never really any need to update from that engine to create an entirely new powertrain and provide it to consumers. In the case of the Velar, it's a more modern, more contemporary engine. They were able to turbocharge it far more adequately and give you the same kind of power outputs for that matter. So those are the only reasons. These are the kind of changes that premium brands, not just premium brands, but any brand, any manufacturer for that matter. It's all down to what kind of turbocharging, what kind of computing that your ECU does to get you the power and the torque that you desire.
Rohit Senthil wants to know, is the Ninja 1000 suitable for an average height person?
Yes, it certainly is. In fact, we did the review where we compared the Ninja 1000 and the Versys 1000, and we said exactly this, that if you find the Versys 1000 to be a bit too tall, the Ninja 1000 should just fit you perfectly. The low seat height definitely helps. So definitely go take a look at the motorcycle. Most Kawasaki dealerships even have a Ninja 1000 for a test ride. So definitely do take a test ride. I think it should fit most people very well. Even the shorter riders, I think, have found the Ninja 1000 to be a lot easier, not just to get onto, but also to ride. And in situations where maybe you suddenly have to come to a halt, keep your foot down, it doesn't really get too unnerving. So I think definitely take a test ride, see if it fits you well, and if it does, I think go ahead and buy one. It's a lovely motorcycle.
Here's one more question about motorcycles. Pranav wants to know, please explain larger front wheel concept in an off-road focused motorcycle.
Well, Pranav, essentially what the larger front wheel is going to do is it gives you better leverage. It gives you a better feedback from what's happening on the road. You will typically see this with off-road focused motorcycles, is because if you're riding on loose surface, if you're riding on that slippery terrain, you want as much feedback as you can have. It's also because you're getting a better leverage on the front end. It's easier to control the motorcycle as well. A very simple experiment that you can do to sort of understand what I'm trying to say here is ride something like a scooter with that tiny wheel compared to a motorcycle. Why does the motorcycle feel more stable? Why does the motorcycle feel more planted compared to a scooter when you're maybe riding fast or taking corners? That's because of the amount of leverage that it's giving you, the amount of feel that is giving you from that front end. And that is what really helps. And this is one of the primary reasons why you will see larger wheels. You'll also see slimmer tires because they are easy to get out of tricky situations. The wider the tire, the wider the contact patch. That also means that it's going to track a lot more. It's not going to probably cut through that that piece of slush or sand that easily, and that is why you'll not see very wide tires on off-road motorcycles either. And that is essentially what the idea behind these dynamics are. So anyhow, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was just saying that I think we'll quickly dive into the news section. There's a lot to catch up on, and then we'll come right back to the questions. The big launch from this week has been Skoda Kushaq starting at 10.50 lakh rupees for the 1 litre TSI manual transmission, going up to 17.60 lakh rupees for the 1.5 litre DCT style trim. At this price point, it doesn't undercut the Creta or even the Seltos, two of its closest rivals, which if you head to our website, overdrive.in, you'll find offers a few more creature comforts and safety features. Rohit did catch up with Skoda India's director, Zach Hollis, immediately after the launch earlier this week to understand why the Kushaq wasn't priced more competitively. Have a listen.
Zach, welcome to Overdrive. So the pricing has been exactly where we expected it to be. Maybe the entry point is slightly higher, and that is where my question is coming in. A lot of people asked us that a sub 10 lakh rupee pricing is what they were expecting for the base, the entry level Kushaq. However, it's a little over 10 lakh rupees, 10.5 to be precise, ex-showroom. There are still quite a few states, quite a few places in India that charge more road tax if the vehicle is priced over 10 lakh rupees versus under it. So what has the pricing strategy been like?
You're right. I mean, I'm well aware that if you get sub 10 lakh car, Rohit, then clearly there's a small tax advantage. I think, however, if you look at it, what we've got is it's not a naked car. If you look at the entry-level car, it comes with infotainment systems. It comes with a lot of features. So it basically isn't a naked car. We haven't got a naked car as our entry-level car. And essentially, it's just not possible to price it under 10 lakh. And that's being perfectly honest with Rohit. I think in 10.5, we've got a competitive car in the marketplace. And I think the other thing is, if you price the car under 10 lakh, you end up restricting the production to such an extent that you can't satisfy demand and you cause customer dissatisfaction. And that's the last thing that I want to do. So let's not have a naked car and let's price the car fairly for the marketplace. And I think that's what we've done with the entry-level car.
All right, like we mentioned, you can catch the entire interview on our YouTube channel. Rohit, you've been pretty bold with Zach. You've also asked him about the top trim, skimping on safety, just 2 airbags. But apart from that, are you content with the pricing? But you as well?
Well, I'm okay. I understand where Skoda is coming from in terms of the pricing. But it is expensive, no doubt, at the end of the day. Rohit and I had several discussions over this and talked about the merits and the demerits of how and why and where the Kushaq is priced. And in fact, earlier also I had mentioned that there's a friend who kind of went in, who's a diehard Skoda fan, went into the showroom, checked out the car, came back very disappointed with the price of the car and the lack of features that it had, or in certain cases the kind of quality also that it showcased on that car, which didn't leave him feeling like it was an upmarket product for that matter. And this is kind of the general sentiment that I am seeing. This is not just us, but I'm just seeing the general sentiment across social media also for that matter, where a lot of commentary has come in about how the Kushaq is fairly expensive. Now, to be fair to Skoda, I was actually expecting the Kushaq to be priced a little higher in terms of entry price point, and I was quite surprised when they came out of the 10.5 lakh. That's that bracket where they position the entry level Kushaq. But yeah, going up the variants, I think it is a fairly expensive product, and I'm not entirely sure if the numbers that they're trying to achieve will they be able to match that or not? It's something time will show us. So let's just wait for a while and see what kind of response does the market actually have to the Kushaq.
All right, we'll go ahead with our news. The range-topping fastest and most powerful Range Rover ever built, the Range Rover Sport SVR, has launched at 2.19 crore rupees ex-showroom. The Range Rover Sport SVR brings back the burly 5-litre supercharged petrol V8 to the range, accompanied by chassis and suspension tuning from Jaguar Land Rover's Special Vehicle Operations Division. Power output stand at 575 PS and 700 Newton meters of torque, put down to all four wheels via an 8-speed automatic gearbox. The headline performance figure for the 2.3-ton Sport SVR is an impressive 0 to 100 kmph in 4.5 seconds with a top speed of 280 kilometers per hour. Audi India has opened bookings for the e-tron for a token amount of 5 lakh rupees. Launch date is 22nd of July. But before that, on Monday at 11 a.m., we'll be bringing you our quick review of the e-tron. So don't forget to keep a reminder on or turn on your bell notification for as soon as this video is available online. Interesting times ahead for Tata Motors as well, as they plan to focus on sustainability. Earlier this week, Tata Motors chairperson N. Chandrasekaran announced that the firm will launch 10 new EVs through its passenger cars division by 2025. We do know that the Altroz EV is in the pipeline, while the HPX crossover that was showcased at the Auto Expo last year may also come with an electric powertrain. And more interesting information coming in. India can now boast of Asia's longest and the world's 5th longest high-speed test track that's been built at NATRAX in Indore, spread across 1,000 acres. This is a 3,000-acre facility developed by the Government of India for automotive testing and certification. The new 16-meter wide high-speed track has 4 lanes, and vehicles can reach speeds of up to 375 kilometers per hour here on the curves, with no limits on the straights. The gentler parabolic banking of this track also makes it one of the safest of such facilities globally. The new track can also be used for a number of high-speed performance automotive tests like maximum speed, acceleration, constant speed, fuel consumption, emission tests through real road driving simulation, high-speed handling and stability evaluation. So Bert, my question to you is, when are we going to visit this track?
Well, we're in the process of figuring out a drive there to get a story done on the NATRAX facilities. I'm hoping it happens very shortly, and that we will also have a very interesting car will be driving there. It's a new launch, and the product's coming out in the market very soon. And everyone's going to see stars in their eyes, of course, if we can get that story done. But yeah, it all depends on kind of NATRAX giving us permissions to shoot, film, and document the facilities. Conversations are on, and let's keep fingers crossed that this happens really soon.
All right, over to you, Rohit, for some motorcycle news.
Right. So let's begin with an electric vehicle, since we've been talking about hybrids and electrification. Now, a new company called Grafton has launched a new vehicle called the Quanta. It's a Hyderabad-based firm, and what you see in front of you is that very vehicle. It looks like a moped, an underbone step-through, and that's exactly what it is. They are saying that it's going to give you performance that is on par with a 100cc motorcycle. It's launched at a pretty good price, 99,000 rupees, which puts it bang against competition like the Chetak, the iQube. But compared to those scooters, this is going to be more like a motorcycle. It promises more comfortable seating, and it promises a 150-kilometer range on a full charge. Now, the battery module, it's a modular format again. What they have there is something that they call a rib cage. That's the kind of frame that they've built. So these are swappable batteries, and you can also increase the number of batteries in the vehicle. So if you want a range of up to 320 kilometers, you can have that with these swappable batteries as well. Now, power comes via a 3.6 kilowatt-hour hub-mounted motor. That's the motivation for the scooter. And the battery pack is a 3 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. And like I said, the price is about 99,000 rupees ex-showroom, and they have a production capacity of about 2,000 units per month. So if you are interested, head over to their website, and you should be able to order a Quanta for yourself. So yeah, read more about it on overdrive.in. We have a more detailed news piece about this, so definitely do take a look. Can we have the next AV, producer? Right. So next is again an electric scooter. I just mentioned it. It's the TVS iQube. It is now also available in Pune. So all you Pune folks, if you thought that the Chetak and the Ather were your only options and you wanted something from TVS, well, the iQube is now here. It is priced at 1.1 lakh rupees. It gets the FAME 2 benefits as well. Well, it looks quite different than what we've seen from, the Chetak or the Ather. And if you want something like this, if you want the reliability of TVS as well, I think this is one good option that you could look at. So yeah, that's the short news. The iQube is now available in Pune at prices starting at 1.1 lakh rupees. And finally, the third bit of news is the BMW GS. Well, the 2021 model of the R1250 GS and the GSA are going to be launched on July 8th. If you're interested in the vehicle, BMW is already accepting bookings for it for a token amount of rupees 1 lakh. These motorcycles, of course, were revealed globally last year. They have the same engine from the R1250 GS, but it has been updated, tweaked a little bit, comes with new riding modes, including a new eco riding mode. There's also a little bit more electronics and gizmos on the motorcycle. And the beautiful looking black and yellow scheme that you see here is the limited anniversary edition, which is also going to go on sale in India. But because it comes with the option 719 parts, I'm guessing it's going to cost about 3 lakh rupees more than the equivalent GS or GSA. While this AV was playing, you also saw the headlamps moving. That's because this motorcycle also gets the new adaptive LED headlamps, which means they will auto level as per the weight on the motorcycle. They also have a swiveling function, which enables a cornering illumination function. And this headlamp, however, is not a standard fitment, but we've seen BMW Motorrad India enable a few of these optional features as standard features on the bikes in India to justify the price tag. So I'm not sure if they'll do that for the adaptive lamps as well. But if it's not, expect a price tag of about 1 lakh more for these adaptive lamps. You also have these new daytime running lamps in the turn blinkers. I think they look quite good. Whether or not these can be retrofitted is something that I'm personally going to try and answer because I would certainly want these lamps on my 1250 GS, but that's going to take some time because the motorcycles are yet to land in the country, is what we are told. They will be here by mid-July, and the delivery should begin by the end of the month, is what BMW in India tells us at the moment. But like I said, you can book yourself the new 1250 GS or GSA at a token amount of rupees 1 lakh at all BMW Motorrad India dealerships if you are interested.
So, Sohini, there are still a few questions I think that I caught on, which were interesting, and I want to kind of bring them. One was, of course, from Pranav Shroti, who's got a very interesting question. Steering not aligned triggers his OCD in a car. What, according to you, triggers your OCD in test cars or cars that you drive daily? Come on, Rohit, do you have an OCD in a car?
In fact, I completely relate to what he's saying. I do not like it when the steering is not aligned. In fact, I've also seen that I don't know what he means by the steering not aligned, because sometimes we also get test cars where the steering doesn't center properly when it is actually at its center position. And we also have vehicles where there's a design flaw where the steering is not aligned with the driver's seat. So yes, that is a bit of a problem for me. The other bit that I really, really hate is those blank switches or blank panels in the cars, because more often than not, the manufacturers are sending us vehicles that are the top of the line variants on offer or the top of the line trims on offer. And then when you see these blank switches or switches that simply tell you, there is nothing assigned to it, I don't know, it just makes me feel shortchanged, because when we are reviewing these cars, we are not only reviewing them from the perspective of a reviewer, but we also try to put ourselves in the shoes of the customer who's actually going to spend their hard-earned money and buy these cars, right? So it does make me feel shortchanged that I went and bought the range-topping vehicle, and then I have all these blank panels and blank switches in the vehicle. I somehow don't like that. It somehow just makes me a bit miffed about the product. What about you, Boyd?
Do you have an OCD first? Then I'll come to my OCD. So, do you have an OCD in cars? You're on mute.
These blank buttons he spoke about, I have a problem with the same.
Achha. See, I mean, come on. I mean, it's a yes, they're blank spots, but you know why the blank spots are there, and they're because of certain other markets where those features are required. You can't really design a car saying specifically, or you can't make a component like that dashboard element, for instance, which will be a universal thing and have all the features and buttons on it. So you got to live with your OCD, and like I have to live with my OCD, and my OCD is a very recent phenomenon. It's that bloody irritating speed limit buzzer that.
Absolutely right, Bert. Yes.
I'm gonna take a hammer or a flamethrower to it and bloody melt the damn thing down. But it is such an irritating feature now, and it absolutely does nothing to limit speed limits or to limit people from driving slower. I still see a lot of people on the roads on highways and expressways going well above 120 kilometers an hour on newer cars, and that's one of the reasons why I especially love, my 2017 i20 Active, because that does not have a speed warning on it. So that is a car that will always stay with me. It will always remain with me. I'm never going to give that up because it just does not make any of these unnecessary sounds that don't really warn you or don't really tell you to back off, or don't inspire you to back off for that matter. But yeah, that's my OCD.
All right. We'll take Apurva is saying the volume on the audio system should be an even number. That's his OCD. All right. Nitin Joshua wants to know Kushaq or Creta petrol automatic in mainstream and premium engine options.
Rohit, can you take that question? I just need to attend to a call. Sorry, there's just a lot of calls coming in very urgently.
No problem. In fact, I'll certainly take this question. So my long-term car at the moment is the Creta 1.5 automatic. The 1.4 automatic, the one with the DCT, and the Kushaq 1.5 DSG is what I spent a lot of time with. And honestly, I love the Kushaq and its DSG. And if I had to choose one, I would probably pick up the Kushaq because I simply love the driving dynamics on that car. I love that engine and the combination with the kind of suspension setup that they've given. But that's just me because I have the luxury of changing these cars every now and then, and that's why I would probably pick that car. If I had to spend that kind of money and then, pick one of the two, I would certainly go with the Creta. That's also because the 1.5 DSG at the moment in the Kushaq doesn't get you the 6 airbag configuration. You can only get it with 2 airbags. And I'm the kind of person who would always pick safety over driving fun, even though I love, a good handling car. So the Creta 1.4 DCT in the top trims will give me those 6 airbags, will give me all these safety features that I really want. And I would rather have them than, just having a better spec sheet to look at.
All right. Rohit, Pustak wants to know why do the Z900 and H2 have different power outputs, though they have the same displacement?
Well, the H2 is supercharged. It's forced induction. So that obviously helps. Same reason why a 1 liter Polo has so much power compared to a naturally aspirated 1 liter that you would see or let's just take the case of a Renault Kiger as well. You have a 1 liter naturally aspirated versus a 1 liter turbocharged, and you can see the power output difference. So it's something similar. And again, it all boils down to how the engines have been tuned. Of course, the more amount of power that you try to get out of a smaller displacement motorcycle, it's always going to also hurt reliability. So yeah, it's a combination of all these things. But to put it simply, supercharging. That is what gives the H2 so much more power.
All right. Rohit, Rajesh wants to know, why does a bike like the 390 ADV get a sari guard? Who with a sari would sit on such a motorcycle? Doesn't the manufacturer have any say to adapt the rules set by the government?
Well, Rajesh, in fact, there is every chance that someone might actually sit on the rear seat of the 390 ADV you are wearing a sari. But I'm very certain that there is going to be no one sitting on the rear seat of a super sport machine wearing a sari. I'm very sure. And if there are people out there who are going to, make their better halves wear a sari and sit on the rear seat of a super sport machine, you certainly don't love your better half or your girlfriend. But it's a rule, and that rule essentially is for to make sure that they don't leave any loopholes for motorcycle manufacturers to get away with this safety system of sorts. And that's the reason why it is compulsory, it is mandatory. The only thing that these manufacturers can do is, one, make sure that the sari guard looks good. Two, make sure that it is removable without affecting any other functionality of the vehicle. And then there's a third option, which Kawasaki has recently explored with the ZX-10R. They've simply not given the rear seat. So the question of putting someone with a sari on the rear seat doesn't arise at all. But yeah, I mean, when you say adapt the rules set by the government, then you are essentially creating a loophole somewhere. Someone will exploit that loophole, and maybe the safety might go for a toss. And that's the reason why the government has left no loophole here. It's the same kind of scenario that we're also looking at with helmets, where they say that ISI marking is compulsory, ISI testing is compulsory with each and every helmet, and if it doesn't have it, these helmets can't be sold in India. So in a way, you're also saying that something like an RI or a Shoei is not good enough for your head. So it's a similar school of thought here, but essentially what they want to make sure is that the cheap aftermarket helmets, or let's not use the word aftermarket, but the cheap imports, we've seen a lot of these cheap imports coming in from different Asian countries, coming in from China as well, where, you know, it's just a device that looks like a helmet, but it's probably not going to protect your head in case of an accident. I'm not saying that an ISI marked helmet will certainly save you, but ideally this is what the government is aiming at. They're trying to ensure that each and every helmet that is sold in India has undergone a certain certification, has undergone certain testing, and has in a way clarified and assured that it is safe for your head. So these are all safety measures, and I'm glad that the government is taking these safety measures, but I also understand where you're coming from. Yes, there needs to be a bit of a debate. There needs to be some sort of flexibility on these kind of things, so that we don't end up doing something stupid.
What is Maruti Suzuki going to bring back a diesel engine in the upcoming Brezza?
Well, Maruti Suzuki is definitely bringing back a diesel engine. Which all products it will go into is still speculation. But they are already working on a diesel, and this will make a comeback in some time. And that time is not too far away. So there's another question that I want to take, Sohini. This is from Shubham Ghosh Hazra, who's asked us, we can see that there are less number of charging points. Sorry, 1 second. There are less number of charging points for EVs, and charging is taking time. How do you think will this electric tech take over, where on a conventional fuel you can fill up and move on? I think very important question over here, which I believe we've answered in the past also, but just to come back to this point, it's yes, at this point in time, EVs do take a lot of time to give you charge, but the general thought is that you can step into a petrol pump or a fuel station, charging station for that matter, and get the necessary 20 or 30% charge that you would require from a high-speed charging infrastructure set up in that charging station, and move on rather to get you to where you want to go comfortably enough, and possibly to return back as well. At this point in time, it's not easy because of two reasons. Yes, electric vehicle batteries take a lot of time to charge. Just as an example, and I've been doing just a little bit of research on this with some EVs. The 95 kilowatt hour battery on the Audi e-tron, for instance, with 11 kilowatt hour charger, 11 kilowatt charger, takes about 7.5 to 8 hours of charging time. If you speed this up to the 22 kilowatt charger, you just straight away drop that by half, and if you go up to about a 50 kilowatt charging unit, you've come down to about an hour or somewhere thereabouts to get the battery charged up to 100%. Some of the other manufacturers, whether it's the I-Pace also for that matter, it's got a smaller battery pack. It's just about some 30 or 35 or 40 kilowatt hour battery pack. And similarly, it takes lesser time, of course, with the 11 kilowatt charger, because it's a smaller battery that they need to charge in that sense. So, but nonetheless, you need really fast charging systems to assuage consumers of EVs at this point in time. The challenge, however, is that the supercharging systems are very, very expensive, extremely expensive, and there right now isn't a very clear path for the return on investment for people who put up those charging stations. So everybody still prefers putting up the wall-mounted units, things like that, which are a little more affordable, but could also give you some amount of return. On an average, I think putting up a general use, kind of a regular use speed charger system costs somewhere upwards of, from what I've heard, is costs upwards of about 20 lakh rupees for just two cars that could use that one single post. And as you increase the charging network, as you go faster and faster speeds, higher power outputs, that cost increases exponentially. It becomes unaffordable for anyone to put that into place and, of course, make some money out of it as well. But technologies are improving. Battery density is getting better. Batteries are getting better. Also, charging systems are getting better. I think it's a matter of time. Within the next decade, we will see a lot of systems coming in where fast charging is available. Right now, you've got fast charging, extremely fast charging on your smartphones. And this is technology that also filter down or rather come across coming to the car automotive industry. You will see cars that will be able to literally drive into a charging station, do the 5-minute top up, and head out of there with probably 50-60% of battery charge acquired from there.
In fact, Bert, I'm just going to add one more thing to it. Technology is certainly improving, and there is going to be, or rather, people are working on synthetic fuels, including Porsche, where all our cars, the way we love them, might just continue operating on a synthetic fuel, e-fuel, where it just answers your question. You can just go back to a fuel station, fill up that synthetic fuel, and continue driving. I hope that happens soon, and I hope that the technology also is sustainable for us as users and for manufacturers as well. Back to you, producer.
All right, we'll take one last question from Vishrut Patel. He says, since guys on the internet are going gaga over the safety of vehicles, why aren't we looking on the passenger vehicles which are being converted into ambulance for hospital and medical purposes?
Well, I was not intending to take this question, Sohini, to be honest, but since you brought it up, because it's a fairly sensitive topic, and there aren't very clear opinions on this, because policy on this is completely screwed up. Okay, there's no harm in saying that. Government policies on this are completely screwed up. We still sell auto rickshaws today, and they ply on our roads, and they don't have any seat belts, not for the driver of the auto rickshaw or for the passengers sitting behind. There's zero safety involved. Absolutely zero safety in an auto rickshaw. And recently, in fact, I just saw a video on social media of a luxury car that was speeding on a road, and it collided with an auto rickshaw ahead of it. He basically ran into a rickshaw ahead of him, and he didn't just run into the rickshaw, he pulverized. That rickshaw went flying through the air. He pulverized the thing. It was quite disturbing to watch. But the fact is that auto rickshaws, of course, bear this brunt, and there is nothing that can be done to keep the occupants in an auto rickshaw safe enough. But yes, passenger vehicles being converted into an ambulance for hospital and medical purposes. In a lot of places, not passenger vehicles as such, but MPVs, specifically the Innova, is being used for emergency work in a lot of areas. Keep in mind, during this entire pandemic, also because of the lockdown, because of the cases that kept coming, critical cases that kept coming, a lot of people converted their ambulances into hospital duty, for COVID duty, to ferry passengers or ferry patients from place to place, from houses to hospitals back home, or wherever they had to go. So there is potential, yes, for passenger vehicles to come into this segment. However, there are challenges also, because passenger vehicles of this sort, Innova being one of the largest in use in the ambulance sector, still does not have enough of space inside that. We need fairly large parcel vans, things like products like what Renault has got to offer, Volkswagen has to offer. We even had the Evalia for some time. But these need to be converted into ambulances, because you have that kind of space inside, and effectively these will allow us to allow doctors, the medical fraternity, to do a lot more. There's a lot more room to move around, to store various other life-saving drugs or devices. So it's not the easiest of challenge. It's not the easiest of tasks to convert a regular passenger vehicle into for emergency duty, but it can be done in a pinch.
All right. But while Rohit answers the next question, I think you can take a look at our questions and let us know who the winners are. Rohit, Senthil will not be able to rest until you tell him. He says somebody tells him to buy a car for 13 lakh rupees, but his interest is to buy a Ninja 1000 SX. What would you suggest?
Sorry, you're asking the wrong person. I never invest in cars. I only buy motorcycles. And I'm always going to tell you to do the same. I mean, see, it's the way I look at it, or the simple logic is the kind of thrill that, speed gives me. If I were to get that from a car, I would have to spend maybe at least 2.5-3 crore rupees to get that kind of a vehicle. That would really satisfy that need for speed. Let's put it that way. Might sound cliched, might sound very childish, but yeah, I mean, we are all racing. We are all in this because of the thrill of speed, right? And the Ninja 1000 or any later class motorcycle is going to bring you closer, or maybe even surpass that thrill that maybe a sports car is going to give you with a motorcycle, because you are a lot more involved when you're riding a motorcycle as compared to a car. Your each and every muscle in your body is literally involved and committed when you're riding a performance motorcycle of this kind. And that kind of a relation, I probably will never be able to have with an automobile, with a car, with a four-wheeled automobile. It will only be two wheels for me. And for a four-wheeled, automobile to really give me that kind of a feeling, that kind of a connection, like I said, I'll have to spend a lot of money, because I would want a vehicle that speaks to me, and motorcycles, most of them do that for me. And that is why I only invest in motorcycles. I hope that answers your query. But if you put the practical aspect to it, of course, a car, anything, even something like an Alto is any day going to be more practical than something like a Ninja 1000. So yeah, that you'll have to essentially convince your family, convince people around you that it's not that practicality that you're looking at. It's that feel, it's that connection, it's that thrill that you're essentially getting your vehicle for, and that is why you're choosing a motorcycle over a car. So, you're muted again.
But one last question: when will fuel prices drop?
I was trying to send you that question to ask this one. But yeah, when the cows come home to roost, I think that's when the fuel prices will drop. I don't see this happening anytime soon. I only expect the prices to go higher. And there's a lot of conversation that prices could climb all the way, even, surpass the 110 rupee per litre mark, probably go up to 120 also. We just don't know. These increments are happening day on day. Every week there's a new announcement about fuel prices going up, which is why I've called up Mercedes-Benz and asked them to take back the GLC 43 AMG. It's just too expensive for me to use any longer. Yeah, right. We were talking about, what were you saying? The Panigale, that's what you want to buy next.
No, not at all. No, it's not the Panigale.
Now we've got to submit fuel bills to our wives along with with these plans.
No, my wife is not going to let me buy anything now.
All right. There's another question. Did we take that? I'm not sure. Yeah, we did actually. Yeah, so I think it's time to announce the winners. We've really gone overboard this week, Sohini. We're an hour and we're 35 minutes past our time, and it's even though we started 5 minutes later than usual, we are a good half an hour over our time limit. And I'm getting hungry now, but I think these are the questions that definitely deserve this week's rather complimentary Overdrive subscription to the digital issue. The first question is from Pranav Shroti. Question: steering not aligned triggers my OCD in any car. What according to you triggers your OCD in test cars or cars you drive daily? Second question was from Shubham Ghosh Hazra, who asked us about the lesser number of charging points for EVs and charging taking time. How do you think will this electric tech take over from conventional fuels where you just fill up and move on? The third question is from Kapil Das. This is the question I don't think you've taken, but we need to take this question. What kind of a bill would electric charger add to my electricity bill? Hope it would be lesser than 3,000, say for charging 44 kilowatt hour twice a month. Kapil, yes, your bill should be extremely low. We recently did a story called the cost ownership of an EV. Do check that out. It's on our website, overdrive.in. It's on a fantastic story, and he will show you what exactly it would mean to fuel up an electric car. What does it cost you? Having said that, the ownership cost overall, for owning a EV is not what it seems to be like, and there are some surprises in store there. But do check that story out. I think that will be ideal for the queries that you have. It will answer all the queries that you have. And I definitely think we should also give out a free subscription to where's that guy? It's Vander, who's asked us when will the fuel prices drop. Or let me put it like this, Vander, I will send you a subscription copy when the fuel prices drop.
that's something for him to look forward to as well.
No, but yeah, that was a good question. Really made my day. So congratulations. It's a vendor also. I'm going to include you in that subscription list. But yes, congratulations to all of you all. Do drop us an email at digitalshow@overdrive.co.in with your details, and we will follow up and get you on that subscription list very shortly.
All right, guys.
There's one
It's
question from Rishabh Kumar, very, very eagerly asking us Creta E and EX model versus Skoda Kushaq active model. Your opinions, Rohit? I'm sure you have an opinion for them.
I think if you have to choose the base models, then it's the Kushaq because the Kushaq still gets you better safety features for the base model. And that is, again, the reason why the starting price is not as per the market's expectation. And yes, compared to the Creta E or EX models, I would certainly have you choose the Kushaq.
all right, guys. We'll quickly get you a teaser of what you can expect on the show tomorrow. Before we wrap up, between the long wheelbase version of the Mercedes-Benz E-Class and the BMW 6 Series GT, which executive luxury sedan do we lean towards? Find out tomorrow on the show, and we also review the new Isuzu Highlander. You can catch a repeat telecast of this on Sunday, 12:30 and 8 p.m. Otherwise, just tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. You can also stream the show live on cnbctv18.com/live TV. So we'll see you guys next week then. Join us on Friday, 6 p.m. Thank you so much for watching.
See you guys. Good night. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.